decided to do this photographer series mainly because there's been a lot of chat towards, models doing self-sufficient shoots at home, which I think is great. But I also think that it's definitely not highlighting the need for photographers. I genuinely think that photographers play a very important role in the creative process of a shoot. Would you not agree?
I do. Thank you.
I don't want to carry a burden on my shoulders of having to composition an image or, get something right. There's certain things that I can't see that you can definitely see. So I thought this would be a great time to just highlight my favorite photographers and photographers that I think are pushing boundaries in the industry and need to be appreciated. So here we are. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're based, and kind of how long you've been doing photography for.
Cool. Grew up in Cape Town, still based in Cape Town.
Yeah.
After school, actually went into BCom law.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Did a year of BCom law and did okay, but realized definitely wasn't for me. Decided to do London for the typical sort of gap year, I suppose used to call it that.
Yeah.
Went over, was working in bars, traveling. I think I was 19 or 20.
Mm-hmm.
And when, pure coincidence, when I was staying in one of these backpacking hostel places, I ended up buying a film camera from some Australian guy who had bought it and was now going back and didn't want it. So like on old school film.
Yeah. Film is not.
Yeah. But with no intentional idea of becoming a photographer, it was, hey, cool, let's play around.
Yeah.
Came back from London, did a couple of part-time courses at Ruth Prowse. It's a fine art college.
Yeah, I know.
But like full-on darkroom, developing your own prints, more on the sort of art side of it, which was incredible. I got like fully hooked into that.
Yeah.
But still wasn't sure, didn't think, okay, cool, this is my future. So I went back to London for another, 6-9 months to make some more money and kind of figure things out. And then because my dad is an architect, I'd always kind of had some inkling to possibly go that way.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing first year interior design at Boston House College.
Oh,
yeah. And
creative. I didn't know any of these things, from law to photography to interior design.
And again, like I did okay in it, but couldn't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. And there was still this sort of, I didn't have the feeling how I felt at Ruth Prowse. I can't wait to get back in that darkroom kind of thing. So at the end of my first year, I decided to start assisting local photographers. Because back then that was the way you did it, because it was still film then. Digital wasn't really a big thing yet, so you kind of really had to know what you were doing. And I assisted some of the, at that stage, big names, learning stuff that you would never learn in a college or from an online course. How production actually works, how to deal with people, how to direct, because a lot of people, it's not just, that's actually one of my worst sayings in the world is, it's an amazing picture, you must have a great camera.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why I'm saying this brings
there's a hell of a lot more to it.
Yeah, that whole point of why photographers are so important, because there's so much more behind it than literally just clicking the button.
So I started assisting local photographers, then moved on to a bit of local and international for about 2 or 3 years, and then you can't chop and go, cool, now I'm a photographer, I want to shoot. So you kind of still assist for money, bread and butter, and then start shooting, developing your own style in between. And again, as I said, back then it was a much longer process. And I mean, the stuff you learn from other photographers, every photographer has got something you can learn from them. whether it's lighting tricks or how to deal with shit situations, or can I swear on this thing or not? I don't know.
Of course, go for
it. Okay, cool. And then started shooting, and I mean, I've got to start with doing test shoots to build your portfolio. And then I started shooting slowly but surely. I mean, Cape Town, even back then, now it's even worse, but back then there's a million photographers, so it's a very competitive dog eat dog little world.
Yes.
And I think, I know one of your questions was about sort of where my style came from.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go to next, because I definitely think your style is unique, and it's downplayed, I think, by you as well. You're very humble about it, but I can definitely spot a Gavin image from a mile away, and I don't know if it's got to, because I've worked with you a lot. I mean, we've done tests, and not a lot of people know, but I've actually known you for much longer than our first shoot that we did together.
Baby.
Yeah, since I was like 7 years old. But I wanted to come back to, your style. I definitely think is a reflection of who you are as a person. It brings out just like this casual rawness, which I think a lot of photographers struggle to naturally get, because you can kind of see when something's pushed to be cool, whereas yours just comes across as cool. So how did you kind of develop that? Did that kind of just come naturally, or was it just because you build more of like a friendship with the people you shoot with, so it does just become casual? It's not just photographer model, it's more just like, hey, let's create something.
I mean, I think the sort of raw grungier side of it comes from, I've always been big into old cars and bikes and that sort of side of things. I mean, that shouldn't have had that much of an effect, but I kind of realized, because of the amount of photographers, clients have go-sees with photographers the same as they have castings and go-sees with models. And I remember going to go-sees with Truwords, funnily enough. And this art director or head stylist is going to see 15 photographers in the next 2 hours.
Yes.
And go through 15 portfolios. So a big part of it was I wanted to shoot stuff that they would remember, not like, with no disrespect to a million guys, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's not that hard to take a beautiful girl in a next to nothing bikini down to the beach.
Yes.
Cool, it's going to be hot. But when that client is seeing 14 of those in a day, they get a bit tired of it. So I think that's part of where I wanted to make it slightly edgier, that it would stick out without being, like you said earlier, forced cool.
Yes.
And that, I think, goes back to also one of my biggest things, especially with test shoots, is getting the right team, and this goes, I remember one of your things was about tips for new guys and girls. Testing, you've got to have like everyone on the same page. Everyone is in, model, stylist, hair and makeup artist, whoever's involved. And they must all be equally keen and committed to it. And if you get a model and you propose this like crazy weird idea, which cool, you've got in your head, and maybe you can see it going in one direction, if she knows or he knows that she's never going to be able to use one of those pictures in her portfolio, she's not really going to be giving you everything. And from a stylist point of view, remember back in starting out, you have this amazing vision of how you see the shoot going, and then the stylist kind of takes it too far in his or her direction. I mean, there's a lot of creatives on one thing. It's hard not for that to happen, but that's where I go back to the reason, I think, like my personal shoots that I'm super proud of, the reason they come out the way they do is because of communication and making sure that everyone's on the same page and no one's getting screwed over, wasting their time.
And I think that comes back to the fact that you go beyond just, the exchange of a shoot. You aim to make friends in the industry. which I think keeps you on the same page and the same level of respect, which is why I also know that when it comes to doing a test, I like to see a mood board, and I'm sure you probably will create a mood board. And I've been modeling for 10 years, so if someone wants to test with me, I'm never just going to say no. I know that as a model and maybe as a photographer, you never know which test is going to bring, some new amazing images to your book. But I definitely think there should be a filter process. And I know that if I need some good images that are, and I think this comes back to your style as well, that are pushing the boundary of sexy but not trashy, if you know what I mean.
That's been from day one. Sorry to interrupt. That's
no, not all.
Been me to a T from day one. Is heading towards sexy, but not trashy or
obvious. You know what I mean? Or just I'm on display. Here I am.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I think is definitely an oversaturated market and style of photography in Cape Town. Yeah. And I think it's more difficult to do.
No, that's also
as well.
So you broke up there?
No, I think it's more difficult to do it the way you do it. It's easy to take a hot girl in a tiny bikini and fucking put it on Instagram, unless it's going to get likes and you're going to get your followers.
Well, that's what I was going to say next. Is that's how Instagram has, I'm sorry to say, kind of screwed this industry, is because there is way too much focus on number of followers and number of likes. When people actually need to look at, cool, this person's got whatever 60,000 followers, and you go look at what he or she has posted, and it's 1.5 million naked girls. You've got to look at, cool, who are those followers? Are they clients that are going to potentially book you? Or so it is one thing that's kind of shitty about Instagram, is it has kind of warped ideas on photography, but it is what it is, and you've got to kind of adapt and roll with it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And even if I look at the engagement on my posts, which of course I've shot some swim and some lingerie, I mean, I'm primarily that kind of a girl. If I look at the engagement on those posts versus, a picture of me with my boyfriend, or just sitting on the beach in like a normal outfit, or maybe in my activewear, they're two parallels. They're not in the same category. And I think there's a place, and I think exploring, if girls want to show that their body and how sexy they are on their Instagram, cool, that's their prerogative. But I think in terms of photography, there is definitely, and it's not spoken about, but I think there's the Insta photographer, like there's the Insta model,
For sure, yeah.
And anyways, this brings me to my next point, which is the first shoot we did together was actually an editorial for Cosmo.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember that.
And
I think that you're one of the few photographers as well that I've worked with that I know can shoot editorial well, but can also just kill a lifestyle shoot, which is often the most difficult, because you've got about 10 different clients, different people, part of the clients, if you know what I mean, that have been, over from wherever. So you've got 10 different opinions. You've maybe got an excess of models, so maybe 5 models creating almost campaign group shots. So what would you say your tip is in kind of when you get to a set that's busy with like plus 4 models, how do you guarantee that you're going to get the right shots?
Okay, cool. So we said plus 4 models, you're talking editorial or lifestyle?
So let's start with editorial.
Yeah, okay. So editorial also, unfortunately, in this country is not on its way out, but I mean, we've lost a lot of the amazing magazines.
Yeah.
But I mean, that shoot we did back then, I mean, I remember that was 4 of you.
All in our school uniform in a club on a Thursday afternoon.
Or Rustenburg schoolies. Yeah, I mean, editorial it's always been the nice sort of window to be a bit more creative, and not do what you want, but editorial is a lot more room for, which I love, the sort of catching incidental in the moment kind of stuff, as opposed to super contrived, cool, you stand there, look that way, which often, if you're shooting a catalog or something and you have to show, it's more about showing the exact product and how it looks. You've got a lot less freedom, whereas editorial, you can be a lot more creative. Again, got to have everyone on the same page and a mood board. So, I mean, I don't know if you remember that shoot, but I'll always sort of introduce myself and make sure everyone knows who's who and kind of make everyone feel comfortable. And again, the main thing is make sure everyone is on the same page of, cool, this is what we're going to do. Generally try and say, this is how long I hope it's going to take. And because you never know, one of those girls might be having the worst day of her life and it's the last thing she feels like. But if you kind of reassure them that, cool, this is what we're going to do, we're going to try and get it done, this is what I need from you, then there's more chance of it going smoothly.
I think that's so important. Communication is key. I mean, I've been on sets where a photographer hasn't even spoken to me before he shoots me. He probably doesn't even know my name,
And that also goes back to respect thing.
Yeah. And they probably don't even want to be there. Maybe they're shooting a client that's paying them good money, but it's like, shit, this is so boring as hell. I can't, do what I want to do. But it's, what, I get to set, and I know that what I do and the way I behave is what's going to make it. And if I get set and I carry my issues from home, and, of course, it's easier said than done. I'm not saying that you can't, be human, but if I sit there miserable, not giving the photographer, what they need or whatever, I know it's just going to take longer and it's going to make the process more difficult.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there is, and that's, you are, and I'm not saying this to sound sweet, one of the most professional models I've worked with. That's why I'm being honest. And that's why it's always a pleasure and it goes so well. But yeah, that's the thing. At the end of the day, even if you don't want to be there, if you've been confirmed on it and you've got to shoot on and you're being paid for it, or even if it's a test, if you are there, then you need to actually just try and push on through, because there's no point in being there and just screwing around and moping, because like you said, it's just going to take forever.
Okay, so next one. So like you said, what is the first thing you do when you arrive on set? So you greet people.
Coffee, and then
I'm the same.
Probably by the time we're on set, it's probably like the third coffee.
Yes.
But again, try and obviously like introduce yourself if it's people you haven't worked with.
Yes.
Especially if it's new, younger models, kind of make them feel comfortable.
Yes.
I shoot a fair amount of kids stuff for catalogs and more lifestyle stuff. Try and introduce yourself without coming across as the scary stranger. Also bearing in mind that sweet is pushing it. But also bearing in mind again that 3-year-old little boy, probably the last place he wants to be is on Noordhoek Beach in the howling wind.
And the catering's good and you can bribe them with a little Coca-Cola afterwards. It's what I do.
Do you remember the shoot in Barrydale when we shot at that diesel and green place, and all the kids were getting those chocolate milkshakes? And
we were like, shit, why don't we get those milkshakes? I mean, okay, just a disclaimer, if you guys haven't been, what is it called? Diesel and cream
on Route 62.
Oh my god, milkshakes, tops.
Yeah.
That was a shoot.
Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but so introduce myself, try and make sure everyone is kind of comfortable to be there and know what we're doing. Check that there isn't anyone missing, like a model who's put the wrong GPS in and ended and she's sitting on some other beach. And basically just sort of make sure we're all on the same page and moving forward. Often, especially with lifestyle or catalog stuff, there's an immense time pressure because clients want 400 shots or 400 outfits in a day. So also, I normally kind of say to the models and that, look, I know it's going to be crazy, mental, running, changing, coming back. Bear with me and we will get through it.
Yeah.
Because that's something I was going to say is I think where a lot of younger photographers might sort of not fall up, but find it difficult to grasp is that there are going to be shoots that you do more likely than not tests that it's your baby and you're incredibly passionate about it and you're behind, which you're going to put everything into. And then there are going to be shoots, yes, when you're shooting office work where, you know,
Yeah,
for example,
not quite the ID mag inspo that you had in mind.
Exactly. The point, what I'm getting to though is you need to accept that, cool, you are being paid to do this. Yes, it's not what you are super amped and creative about, but your client has got an idea in their head of what they want, and you need to shoot according to what they want, whether you like it or not. Whether you think, Jesus, this is more boring than
watching paint dry. Yeah.
There you go. Love Island, whatever. That's a thing I know from certain clients where they've said the photographer just goes off, shoots, doesn't show the client anything, whether it's from the back of the camera or they're shooting tethered to a laptop. And I don't think it's from an arrogance point of view. I think it's an inexperience thing.
Yeah.
You need to, the client at the end of the day needs to be right there and look and see what you have shot so that they can go, cool, you know what, that's exactly what I wanted. Awesome, let's move on.
And it actually makes the process just go a whole lot quicker.
100%.
And you learn these things, and like, you know, coming back to office wear, I shoot quite a bit of office wear. It's not going to be it's insta pick, but it pays my rent. And you know what? Clients, some of the office wear clients, I know this is a weird thing to say, but us have been the nicest and the most organized I've ever worked with, because they're like, we just need to get this blouse looking great for our, you know, 1,000 clients catalog. We're going to feed you well because we make money from what we sell, and great, you know, that's all it is.
No, that's why I always said, like, you can, and this I would say applies to models and photographers. Just, it's like a 50-50 thing. Am I doing this because it's paying me well, or am I doing it because I'm super passionate about it and I'm going to get incredible pics out of it? It's one or the other, but they both need to be treated in the same manner of effort and input and commitment and professionalism.
And you know what, seldomly do they overlap. And I think that's a misconception.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very seldom.
I'm trying to think of the last time that I loved and got paid really well.
Yeah.
But all in all, it's a positive industry, I'd say. It's definitely, it's not.
Look, I don't know if, I mean, from some of the stuff I've said, if it's come across negative, as tough as this industry is, and it's not quite as glamorous as Instagram makes it out to be, I'm still very, very happy doing what I do, and wouldn't, if I could change and go back 5, 10 years, 15 years, I would still be a photographer. I love it, despite the pitfalls.
Yeah, no, that's true. So, okay, I'm gonna come into so we've chatted a bit about misconceptions. What would you say the easiest part of the job is?
So one thing on misconceptions, for models, hair and makeup artists, and stylists, there is a big misconception that photographer has the be-all and end-all say of, I want to work, we're using her because she did that. 9 times out of 10, the client will want your input of, you know, these are who we're using, or these are 5 favorites. What do you think? And that's, I think, more heading towards, have you worked with her and is she a complete nightmare?
Yes. Versus, I absolutely love her, I'm going to punt her.
Yeah. Photographers don't, unfortunately, have as much pull as everyone thinks.
Okay, so that's interesting, because that was one of my questions, you know, what casting process. If I walk in there and see you, am I like, I'm going to book the job?
Well,
a lot of the time I do, though.
I know.
Me.
No, it is, as I said, obviously photographer's got a say. I mean, this is, let's say, a casting scenario.
Yeah.
I think that was actually also one of your things.
Yeah. So let's go to that. Let's go to that.
Okay, cool. What it was tips for models.
Yeah, tips for models when they go to a casting. Well, like you just said, you don't have much of a say, but obviously you observe girls come in and you can see how a client reacts. Also boys. When I say girls, I mean all kids, whatever.
Yeah. Also, if I say guys, sorry, it is wrong, but generally implying both. So firstly, the client and the photographer will are probably seeing you from the second you walk in.
Yes.
Obviously, you got to be okay. One thing, be on time.
Okay.
I know castings are like a model's worst nightmare. And there's certain casting studios in Cape Town where they say be there 2 and you're still sitting there at 4:30. But
it's your job.
All I mean by be on time is, and having dated a model, the idea of if it says 2 till 4, don't try and sneak in there at 5 to 4. Even though it's still in the allotted time, because after 2 hours of seeing models, chances are that that client just wants to get out of there.
And they found someone probably already.
Yeah, I mean, look, if often, well, all the castings I've sat in, it has happened where a phenomenal girl walks in towards the end and they're like, oh, okay, cool, you know what, done. Okay. Very, very rare though. Chances are earlier is better. And like I said, generally if you walk in 5 minutes before when they're already sort of starting to pack up, they'll see you because they feel obliged to, because you've made the effort to get there. But so be on time, obviously look presentable. And this applies to guys and girls. Be polite, say hi, so nice to see you. Don't overdo the, oh my God, like, you know, it's such nice weather outside, and that over fake friendly.
Yes.
I know it sounds shitty for me to say, but the clients aren't stupid and they can see that. Be polite, say how's it, have a, you know, how you guys doing, where you from, but don't over compensate wanting to chat. At the end of the day, how you look and your personality and your portfolio all make up what they. And if you're trying to chat to them too much, they can't look at your book properly.
They don't care what you had for breakfast, to be honest. And I've noticed that as well. I've actually felt it's better for me to keep quiet because it keeps them focused on my book. Otherwise, they're just scrolling, listening to me. And I'm like, you're not even looking.
And one other thing, not misconception, but a thing from castings. Prime example, let's say you walk into a casting with me and a client that you've shot with before. And the shoot was amazing and they absolutely loved it. You, fair enough, would walk away going, fucking done, I booked that.
Yeah.
There is a chance that no matter how amazing it was and as much as they love you, they might not book you because they need variety.
Okay. So it's not me, it's them.
No, this is the thing. I don't know how models do it. I take my hat off to you, to the amount of rejection and sort of, what's the word, like self-analysis or criticism that gets put on you day by day is insane. But, and that's what I'm saying is you, not you specifically, but you as the model, would have it's common sense. You walk into a client that you shot with before, even five times. I mean, this happened with a job before this delightful virus came along, where it was a girl that I've shot with 1 million times. She's incredible. The client had shot with her, and that was the exact reason that they didn't book her, was because they'd shot her too much.
Yeah.
So that was another thing, a big thing to up and coming girls and boys, is don't take it personally.
Yeah, I think I definitely have to, you can't sit and like you said, self-analyze. And I've noticed this, that just like any other job, you can't bring it home, and home being your mind, essentially. Like I know that if someone doesn't book me, it's probably not me. It's just, maybe the clothing isn't right, or like you said, they love me, but they've had so many brunettes in their past campaign, they have to have a blonde. There's so many things that could have happened.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, that applies to photographers as well. You might have shot with this brand 2-3 years ago, and the shoot was incredible, client was blown away. They also want to mix it up a bit.
Yeah, style-wise. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. They might have had a meeting and said, it might attract more people if we do a shoot that's very different to what we've done before.
Yeah.
So let's not use Gavin. Let's use this person instead, even though we do love Gavin and we'll use him again in the future.
No, that's the thing. And it's hard to not take that personally.
No, of course.
Immediately you go, okay, why? Hold on, I've worked with him for so long, we've never had a problem. Why? There could be a new managing director who has told this creative guy, you know what, let's try this person. And all I'm getting at is there are a lot of factors that might not be apparent for why you don't get booked on something, but don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, I think that's important advice, 100%. Okay, so chatting about lockdown a little bit, what is the first thing you're going to do after lockdown?
I think definitely El Burro restaurant.
El Burro, yes. That is one thing I must say, guys. If you shoot with Gavin, there's guaranteed a good beer or taco or meal afterwards. At least it's with me. When I shoot with you, it happens. Always end up at Clark's.
Not a guarantee.
He pays as well, guys. So
lockdown is killing me. As a photographer, it's one of the industries where you can't sort of, I don't know, a lot of guys are doing online sort of FaceTime shoots, which is cool, I think, to pass the time, but I don't know, my personal opinion, it's not for me. So unfortunately for me, lockdown is literally just a waiting game. I mean, I had a couple, 2 or 3 very big, nice jobs for March, which were confirmed, and literally first week of March, they all cancelled because the clients couldn't fly in.
Yeah, it's a shit time.
My main thing at the moment, I'm obviously stressing out, bored, but I've also kind of realized that it's not just me, it's every other photographer and every other person in this industry, or everyone in the world. And we literally stressing about it and freaking out is not actually going to speed anything up. I do strongly believe that our industry will kind of rise up again after all of this. I don't know how long, but definitely not in the next couple of months. It's going to take a while, but I think it will definitely, hopefully, especially in South Africa, because our rand is weakened, a lot of clients will eventually come back. And so for me, lockdown at the moment is just waiting.
Waiting game, yeah. And I think that's important to highlight, actually, that because the rand has weakened, hopefully some clients do, hopefully it's a big season. And I think one of the things we can continue to do during lockdown is highlight, I did this kind of thing with a stylist as well, where she styled me through Zoom. And I think it's just highlighting the need for, I can't do my own makeup the way a makeup artist does my makeup. I fucking suck at it, okay? I've tried my hardest to do a cat eye or whatever. I mean, we've done shoots where I've done my own makeup and I've really tried my hardest. I've spent a good while.
Not as bad as you think, to be honest. But,
it's not fantastic, And as much as I love Nick, he can't take a photo like a photographer can, And I'm like, why does it not look as good as, the lighting or whatever, my iPhone? Post-production, all these things I think definitely need to be highlighted, and this whole future of minimalism on shoots I think is definitely going to come into play, but I don't think I think we should avoid it, because I think the food culture is so important as well. Like we said, it's beyond just clicking a button. It's making friends, it's interacting, it's that high you get after you've had this vision of what photo you want to capture, and then you see the makeup artist and the stylist and everyone peering over that camera at that one shot, and you're like, shit, we got it, you know, which is a feeling that we're going to miss out on. So I think it's important that clients and everyone here, post lockdown, we need to get it going again, you know?
Yeah. No, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, especially in the first couple of weeks, it was, you know, oh my God, how are we going to do this? How long is this going to take? But I mean, all the local clients, all the international clients are also just as desperate and impatient to get back up and running, and they're still going to need to shoot all their clothes and their food and their products. Who knows when it's going to happen, but exactly.
Gotta do that.
It is going to happen. So, that's...
Okay, cool. So that's kind of bringing it to the end. Where can people find you on social media?
Instagram is at Gavin Kleinschmidt. Facebook page is Gavin Kleinschmidt Photography, but I haven't really posted much on there, to be honest. And then my website is www.gavin-k.co.za.
Cool. And then one last question: who's your favorite South African model?
Oh, come on.
No, you don't have to answer that. You don't have to answer that.
I've never actually thought about it, but
no, it's fine. Don't worry. Just, I know it's me, so it's okay. It's fine. We'll leave it at that.
Jokes aside, there's no ways I could say it's you without this sounding contrived, but you're definitely one of my absolute favorites.
Oh, thank you.
Love you, Nick. No, I'm serious. I've never actually really thought about it, but yeah, I mean, because the thing is, for me, it's all about the personality. You can be the most perfectly sculpted, physically perfect on whatever level. If you're an absolute diva and nightmare, cheers, not interested.
Yeah, no, and I definitely agree, because I work with other models, and I have made some solid friends in this industry, but I've also worked with some toughies, and I think it all comes down to whether you want to be there or not at the end of the day. And
don't think you're better than other people.
Exactly. And I think that transcends around the whole industry, and I really hope that we get to shoot together again in the near future, and I get to come home in December. And I'm looking forward to that.